thanks so much for that. Okay, so hi everyone. As you know, my name is Michele Poole, and I'm the global head of customer experience at Buckzy Payment. Buckzy Payments is a fintech, and we're a startup. We're all about instant cross-border payments. We're a provider focused on enabling capabilities of our customers, such as financial services institutions or other marketplaces. We connect global real-time payment networks along with emerging payment networks and like virtual wallets as well, to create the most comprehensive global payments ecosystem. There's that word, we heard that earlier, for sending and receiving payments instantly, 24/7, 365 days a week. Our mission is to fundamentally transform the movement of money through the creation of a real-time payments ecosystem on a global scale. So the market, this way. No, am I going the wrong way? Maybe I'm going the wrong way. There we go. Perfect. Okay, sorry about that. So the market size for global money movement is massive. According to McKinsey, $1.3 trillion in revenue was generated from global money movement in 2017, and that's projected to grow to $2.2 trillion by 2026. 90% of that is generated by financial services institutions, and the other 10% comes from a lot of the traditional players, think like Western Union, as well as some of the new emerging digital players. But for individuals and small businesses, the problem of moving money globally is real. So for a minute, think about small businesses who have a global workforce and they need to pay their salespeople on a global level. Think about the gig economy that's really emerged, and think about anyone who has clients all over the world. Is it easy for them to get paid quickly? Parents who have students studying abroad, they'll tell you that paying tuition or sending money for allowance and life necessities for those kids is really fraught with high fees and very long lead times before the money's actually available for withdrawal in a bank account or even a digital wallet. I bet many in this room right now have moved here to Canada from another place in the world, and they've wanted to send money back home to family or loved ones. And I guess I'm betting you found that it's pretty expensive, and the experience overall is kind of reminiscent of snail mail or even that rotary dial telephone. So why is this? Why is it that electronic cross-border movement hasn't really evolved very much in the past 40 years? Well, why? Because it's not easy. It's not as simple as building a SaaS solution or launching an app. It requires a deep understanding of all the complexities of global money movement networks, correspondent banking, regulatory, compliance, and foreign exchange. And also really key is relationships on a global scale with banks and regulators. And above all, what's required is a real global mindset. So at Buckzy, we're building a real-time payments ecosystem on which others can build and also innovate. So we refer to it as an ecosystem because it's not simply a network that you can route messages through to a required endpoint similar to the Swift messaging system. It's really a full set of capabilities and connections that are required to move money internationally. So that includes digital onboarding, sanction screening, messaging, payment network connectivity, financial settlement, web, mobile interfaces. And that's all driven from a focus on the customer experience, both from a sender's perspective as well as a receiver's perspective. So we recognize that there's an endpoint or a purpose, if you will, behind each and every cross-border payment. That concept of purpose-driven payments, and that the customer experience can be enhanced by removing as much of that friction as is possible. And so, I would say it's a win-win. So, okay, maybe that's a bit of an overused term, but I would actually say it's pretty appropriate here. As a solution enabler, we're creating a model where both parties can leverage their strengths to bring solutions to market quicker and more efficiently than either of them could alone. And so leveraging Buckzy's strength of speed to market and the a la carte capability modules with our open banking APIs and like that lower cost and the innovation that's really in our DNA, financial services institutions can close the gap on that capability and the challenges they have with their legacy systems, processes, and the cost model. And the gap that exists is really significant, both in terms of size and opportunity and the dissatisfaction that it creates for the customers. And so it's really one of the largest opportunities right now for growth in financial services. And so we really do believe that there's a real opportunity here, and partnering with us is a win-win. Any questions? Sure. Yeah, great question. So because we're an ecosystem, we have a huge selection of strategic partners. And with those partners, we're integrated. And so we have AML partners that also help us with the AML. We also have internal compliance as well, because when you think of kind of the overall ecosystem, the way we're set up is very modular in nature. And so some of our clients would pick to have us do KYC and sanction screening. Others, like especially in Canada, we're finding with large financial services institutions in Canada, they already know their customers. So they'll take the KYC, but then we'll take other aspects of the AML and the sanction screening. But you're right, it's tricky, especially from a business point of view when you're registering businesses, because a lot of that initial screening that has to be done is also on a lot of the directors inside the companies as well. It's not like just the company, you know? It's
Hi.
Hey.
Okay, so I understand that this is about remittances and cross-border payments. And you're building a network, an ecosystem for that. So my question is about how do you see your the crypto revolution, that things like some of the crypto assets like XRP, Ripple, or Stellar, which is targeting exactly the same target market, and they're also building an ecosystem which is a distributed, decentralized ecosystem, which achieves the same, objectives that yours do. How do you see that? And does your initiative incorporate that in any sense?
Great question. So no, we are not incorporating any aspects of cryptocurrency. From our perspective, because we're really focused on enabling financial services institutions, we have some customers that are more along in the digital marketplace type of a space. But what we find is that a lot of financial services institutions, even not just in Canada, like globally, are still a bit uncomfortable with partnering with fintechs that are in the cryptocurrency space. We do use blockchain, and we do leverage aspects of AI. So we have a multi-currency wallet for businesses in certain countries where that's allowed. So in certain countries, you can't have that, but in others you can, right? And so we use blockchain technology there to manage the ledger, if you will, around the different currencies, but we don't use cryptocurrency.
Hi.
Hey.
Oh, hi, here. To your left.
Oh, sorry.
I'm
so
hiding.
sorry.
Yes. This may be just my misunderstanding, but what is the difference between you and, say, a competitor such as TransferWise?
Great question. And so I think there's a couple of key differences. The first one is we have no fees. So there's no fee. So even at TransferWise, if you're going to use TransferWise, you pay a fee. So you pay the difference in the foreign exchange and you pay a fee. So we have no fees. That's kind of the first thing. We're also not significantly focused on the direct-to-consumer model. So we will be launching direct-to-consumer here in Canada and then later in the UK, but that's not a primary thrust for us. We're more about partnering with other financial institutions to enable them and with other partners to enable various aspects of their innovation. And also, because we're set up like that, we're very modularized in nature. So depending on who we're partnering with and what they want. So as an an example, what we're finding is that in some corridors, especially partnering with a financial services institution, they want to handle the foreign exchange and they want to handle the liquidity. So that's cool. You can do that in the corridors where you may have a larger presence. You may have actual banks already in your network there. But then in the more exotic currencies, like say Indonesia, even we're finding Philippines as an example, there isn't a desire to have their own liquidity. So you can use our liquidity and you can use our foreign exchange. So it's set up very like modularized so that you can ultimately get a very customized solution for your needs. And so some of our competitors aren't structured quite the same way around that. And actually the other thing I would say too is that some of our competitors are leveraging existing rails and existing networks that already exist. We're actually building our own connections behind key strategic partners. So for example, in India, the IMPS network, we sit behind a partner where we have a pipe that we've built, and we're actually the first customer to use the Flash product, which connects direct to that IMPS network. So a few differences there. I'm sorry? So we have bank partners and we have integrations done to those. So for example, our sandbox, when we have a proof of concept or a test in our sandbox, it tests all the way through to all of the rails globally and our banking partners through which we're connected.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michelle. I really appreciate that.